Hey guys, this is John from US Dash Camera. Today I got a review on the top of the line camera from Thinkware, the F800 Pro. Now I did review the F800 recently, so I'll provide links to that review and any other reviews I mentioned in this review. This one is an upgrade to the F800, and it does have a few features besides just being all black, so of course I will touch on that. Now this was sent to me for review by blackboxmycar.com. So I'd like to thank them as usual for sending out review units. I will provide links to where you can purchase this through them at their store or on Amazon also. So the box looks just like the F800 box. You can see from the picture the Pro version is all black for the most part. It does have some chrome accents, but it is basically the same camera. It has the same specs, same image processor. So it's got the Sony Starvis image sensor front and rear. The rear camera is actually the same camera that you would get with the regular F800, and comes in pretty much the exact same box with the same accessories. So just want to show everything that comes with it. Now this is exactly like what you would get with the regular F800 camera. It does come with a decent quick start manual. You got a warranty card, and of course it does have contacts for customer support in all of those different countries, which is pretty nice. You can actually talk to a real person. It's just a standard power cord. Here's the mounting plate, and it does come with this extra adhesive. This one came with a 32 gigabyte memory card, and what's nice about this camera is it does support up to 128 gigabytes, so I am going to be doing that. Here's a micro SD card USB adapter. It's pretty standard what comes with all of the Thinkware cameras. A couple of cable management clips. So I wanted to quick go over the differences between the two cameras because they're almost the same, other than for one you can use a 128 gigabyte card in the Pro, which I think is very disappointing. I think the 800 should also support that. It does have an energy saving mode for parking mode, which I'll cover later, and it does have a cloud feature, not too different from the Blackview cloud, and again I'll cover that later in the video because there's quite a bit to it. Now one of the first things I want to get out of the way is this camera does have pretty low bit rate still. It's 10 megabits per second front and rear. Even Blackview's got in theirs up a bit, I believe, to like 12 or so. But you're not going to get as good video quality with this as something like the A119 or a lot of other single channel cameras. Now Street Guardian also has a 2-channel camera coming out. I believe it just came out this past month and supposedly has very great video quality front and rear, but it might not have all the same features as some of the features found in Blackview or Thinkware cameras, so you definitely gotta weigh the pros and cons. So oftentimes these 2-channel advanced high-end cameras do have to sacrifice the video quality a little bit. Personally, I run a Thinkware camera front and rear, and then also an A119 up front for getting the best quality video possible while driving. But the Thinkware camera, of course, is great for parking mode, so I can protect myself from any hit and runs in the parking lot, or even potentially someone keying my truck, because it does use a motion sensor option also. Now I did compare the F800 to the F770 and the Blackview 750S, Blackview's top of the line camera, and I think they both had their pros and cons. I think the Blackview camera does look slightly better during the day, but I think the Thinkware cameras looked better at night. And the Thinkware camera only has 30 frames per second both channels, where Blackview does actually have 60 frames per second on their front channel on their new top of the line 750. So here you can see the cameras look very similar. We got a mute button, a power button, format, Wi-Fi, and then the lock button in case you want to lock a file manually. Do appreciate the all black design on this. And of course it's got this very flat adhesive mount, so this gets the lens right up next to the glass, which helps reduce glare. There are some polarized lenses that are offered by some companies now to help reduce glare even more, but I don't have any of those right now. Of course the lens is adjustable to adjust the angle. In the back you can see we got the microphone, micro SD card slot, and the reset switch. Like the F800, this does add a record light because the F770 didn't have that. Now, as I mentioned in the F800 review, the rear camera cable and the power cord sort of interfere with each other because for whatever reason Thinkware put them in line like this, where they were off-centered from each other on the F770, and you can still get both cables in, but as you can see here, I really had to jam that power cord behind the rear camera cable to get it to fit. So it doesn't seem to wreck anything, but it's still really goofy design to me. This is still my favorite form factor of all the new top-of-the-line cameras though. Now this is the 128GB card I'm going to be using. This is a Samsung Evo card, so this is one that blackboxmycar.com will offer if you get the 128GB bundle, so it should be good to go. And as with all Thinkware cameras, I really love all the voice alerts.
Insert a memory card. Insert a memory card.
So this can be very useful because sometimes you might take the memory card out and forget to put it back in and not realize you're driving without it recording. So that's very helpful.
Continuous recording will now start.
Now, one thing I've had a lot of people ask on YouTube and on the forums is, can you mute the voice alerts for when you get back into your car? One feature this camera and the previous generation had is if you use the parking mode, it'll tell you how many times it sensed motion or an impact when you start your car back up. Some people find that very annoying. Personally, I like to know how many times my car has been impacted. Sometimes it does get falses from me slamming the door if I slam the door too hard, but it is very useful. Now, the important thing about this camera is finally when you turn the volume down for the audio alerts, that actually does mute those alerts too. So if you want peace and quiet and don't want those alerts, you can be happy to know that you can mute those this time, unlike the F770. Now overall with the video quality, I felt like it's okay. Like I mentioned earlier, the Blackview offers 60 frames per second on the front channel, and I feel like it does offer a bit more readability with license plates and signs that are closer, but it seems to be a common issue for Blackview cameras to be able to focus, so I found that the Thinkware cameras seem to have better readability on signs further away. Now, when I compared them, I'll provide a link down below to my video where I did compare them side by side. The Blackview did do better in certain circumstances, and the Thinkware did better in other circumstances. Now the cheaper Blackview 490 did very well too, and that's about $200 base price, so that's another camera you'd want to consider. But so all in all, I would say the Thinkware F800 Pro is adequate. It's about the same as a lot of these other high-end 2-channel cameras, although I was a little disappointed that it wasn't at least 12 megabits per second. Surprisingly here though, I felt like the night quality was pretty smooth looking. With the 750S, the night video looked so grainy and so bad that it's actually nice to see how pretty and smooth the night quality on the F800 Pro looks. But on the flip side, the 750S seemed to look slightly better to me in the daytime, but I did have that issue with the focus. So like I said, it's all really a toss-up, and you're really just going to have to compare the features of the F800 series or the 750S series if you're deciding between them. Personally, I prefer the Thinkware cameras, and I'll get onto that a little bit later. One thing the Blackview does do better is the cloud feature. Now I'm going to cover right now how to set up the cloud feature, and it is a little complicated, so I am going to provide a link down in the description to the official Thinkware tutorial video on setting this up.
On your smartphone, connect to a Wi-Fi network whose name starts with Thinkware.
Now the first time you start this up, you're going to get that alert, and if you don't do the wireless hotspot or Wi-Fi setup, you're going to get that alert every time. So make sure you go through that process and set it up properly. Otherwise, it's going to say that alert every single time the camera turns on. So here you can see the default password is 1 through 0. And for some really weird reason, if you do a hard reset, then the password resets to 1 through 9. I found that really ridiculous when I was troubleshooting the camera the first time trying to set up the hotspot. So of course you can get a live view with the app. This is quite delayed though, so it's not like you're going to be using it as a rear view camera. It's more just to set up the proper angle. Of course you can change all of your settings here in the app. Now this memory partition allows you to choose what type of file gets priority on the memory card and reserves most of the space for that file type. You can of course format your memory card here in the app.
Memory card format will now start. Memory card format completed.
Or of course, if you hold the button down on the actual camera for several seconds, it'll format it. Down on the bottom, you can set whether any of the video file types get overwritten or not. So, for example, if you want all your manually recorded buttons with that emergency button to be locked, they will be completely locked and won't be overwritten. Here you can change the brightness, front or rear, which is pretty nice. You can also rotate the rear camera. Of course, for the incident files, you can change the sensitivity of the G sensor. I like to keep it on low or lowest for while I'm driving. The super night vision feature, which just supposedly gives you better night vision, you can have it just in parking mode if you want, or parking and continuous. Now for the parking mode, there's 3 different options. With the motion sensing option, the camera will sit idly while you're parked, running either off your car battery or an auxiliary dashcam battery, which I'll mention later in the video. And when it senses motion or an impact, it'll actually save the 10 previous seconds plus 10 more seconds, and if motion continues, it'll keep recording. Now the benefit of this is that it's what we call buffered video or buffered parking mode. So you can turn the motion sensing off, which is nice if you just want to record when there's an impact. And that way, if someone impacts you in a parking lot, you don't just see them driving off, because it doesn't start recording the second after the impact happens. It actually shows the 10 seconds leading up to them hitting your car, and that way you have definitive proof that they hit your car, and they can't argue that the video doesn't show it. Now this second mode is the time-lapse feature, which was also in the F800 and F770. I mistakenly said that the F770 didn't have this, but this pretty much operates in the similar ways the standard motion detection, but instead of the standard video, it saves 2 frame per second video. And the benefit of that is the file size is much smaller, so you could record hours and hours and hours of more footage compared to the regular motion detection parking mode. So if you park in a really high traffic area where it's going to be recording non-stop, then the time-lapse feature is something you might want to consider. You can also turn the motion detection down to low or lowest, and that seems to help too, because I've been getting far less clips of just leaves blowing around like I was before. If you're using a smaller memory card, time-lapse might be something you'd want to consider also, since it uses so much less space on your memory card. Now the third option, which is unique to the Pro version, the regular F800 does not have this, is the energy saver parking mode. And I wasn't really able to test it because basically it's just an impact sensing mode. So what they claim is it uses a third less power, 3x longer recording time, and they claim that it starts recording within a second or less than a second. But to me, it's still not showing the impact potentially, so I'm a little iffy about it. But it is nice to have that optional feature. Here you can see the record timer does have a 72-hour mode, because I've heard a lot of people complain that the limit was 48 hours. So I'm glad to see the Pro version does offer a 72-hour time limit. I like to keep it on 24 hours myself though, because I live in a cold climate. Here you can see the battery protection, which will allow the camera to cut power off if it's below a certain threshold. This way you won't kill your car battery. Now, this other feature that I didn't really cover in the F800 review is the winter protection mode. And basically this just allows you to have it set to only cut power off during certain months when you're more worried about a low battery. So maybe during summer months you don't really have to worry about it. Now there is the road safety features. I'm not really able to test a lot of these because, for one, my state in the US doesn't have red light or speed cameras, and none of this really applies to me. So here you can see these are the features they offer. I think it is really cool that they offer it, but like I said, since I can't test it, I can't really speak for how useful it is. Now in the system settings, here you can change some things like the language, the security LED. There you can see also the volume, where you can mute the alerts if you want. You can even disable the rear camera LED, which I really like. We got time, daylight savings, speed units, speed stamp, so pretty standard settings here in this last menu. Now I wanted to talk about the cloud feature, because I was excited that Thinkware is offering a cloud feature, but right off the bat I will say it's not even close to as fully developed as the Blackview cloud, and Blackview's had a few years to develop theirs, so it's not surprising that Thinkware is far behind on it, but it does offer some of the main features that I want. Now, before you can get the cloud feature working, you do have to enable the network function. These impact notifications allow you to get notifications if your car is hit, which I'll show later. But basically, you got to go through this whole setup and set up a hotspot, and I had a lot of trouble with it for some reason. It just didn't want to work, and it took me over an hour for some reason. That's why I had to do a hard reset before, and when I realized that the default password changes to 1 through 9 instead of 1 through 0. Here you can use either a mobile hotspot, or you can even use your home Wi-Fi, which I'm going to be using for this test.
Connected to the internet.
So now it's connected to my home Wi-Fi, and if I shake the camera, it'll sense an impact. Then my phone within a few seconds will get a notification here saying that my car was impacted. Now here I just took a screenshot because I tested this at home and I don't want people seeing my address, but it actually listed my specific address, so the location is very precise. And one thing I will point out though is, like I said, since it's limited, you can't watch a live feed like Blackview, but you can get a few other notifications, like the geofencing feature allows you to get a notification, say if one of your employees drives the vehicle out of a certain area, such as a 10 square mile area, or if your teenager gets in a car accident. All of this does depend, of course, on if your car has a hotspot. You could run a mobile hotspot off your car battery or another battery in your car, but they typically cost anywhere from $15 to $20 a month, so it's definitely an expense I don't think most people are willing to pay if they actually want to use it while their car is even parked and they're away from their car. But I do appreciate the feature. I'm probably going to try getting a mobile hotspot for Cricket because I use Cricket and they offer a $15 a month plan, so just for the sake of testing it and seeing how well it works, I do plan on doing that in the future. Now, besides the fact that you can't watch live streams like you can on Blackview, you also, as far as I've seen, cannot store the clip or save the clip to your phone or to any cloud storage. So it is very limited, but like I said, I still appreciate that they're getting their feet wet, they're getting into the cloud, so hopefully over the next few years they add a lot of new features like Blackview has. Now overall, A lot of people are going to be comparing the F800 Pro to the Blackview DR750S 2-channel because they're two of the most popular high-end cameras, and I think a lot of people are going to have strong opinions one way or the other. Personally, I like the F800 Pro more. I like the form factor better. I like some of the features it has, such as the partitioning options or setting what type of files lock or don't lock. Now, Blackview's offered some of those features in some cameras, but not in other cameras, and it's really hit or miss. Off the top of my head, I believe the 750 did have some sort of partitioning option, or at least the 490 did. One of the Blackview cameras I tested did have it, but then another one didn't, so it gets really confusing. Now, the Blackview camera is definitely going to be the one to go if you want the full cloud feature, because Thinkware's just isn't that developed yet. But that's not to say that the Thinkware cameras don't have some positives about them either. For one thing I do really like is the fact that they use standard micro USB for their rear cameras. I've been able to use standard micro USB cable extensions, and this is actually a clip from the Blackview 750 I was testing about a month ago, and you might notice here it does look smoother, at least to me, but I didn't notice that it was blurrier at further distances. So I'm not going to say which one you should absolutely get, because there's so many pros and cons of each that it's really going to be a lot of personal preference on the features you want, or the form factor also. I am glad to see, though, that Thinkware does have a pretty much all black version, though. I really wish they would just make them all black. I think that's one thing Blackview does that I really appreciate, is all of their cameras are all black, because that's what most people, at least in the US, want. Now here you can see again the standard F800 is just too visible to me. It looks like an eyesore in your front windshield, and that alone might convince some people to even get the Pro version. In the end, I think the F800 Pro has become my favorite high-end 2-channel system. Some people might disagree with me there. A lot of people think Blackview is better, but I get a lot of comments from people also saying Thinkware is the better camera. So tell me what you guys think down below. Do you think the pros of the F800 are worth it over the 60 frames per second or better cloud feature in the Blackview? Or do you think the extra recording, parking mode options, and the memory card partitioning and overwrite options make up for the 30 frames per second and more simple cloud feature? Let me know down in the comments. Of course, I'd like to thank BlackboxMyCar.com again for sending this unit out for review. I'll provide links to all my different reviews of the cameras I mentioned before, and where you can purchase this camera or any of the other cameras I've mentioned down below in the description, so of course check that out. It does help support my channel, and I appreciate if you hit like and subscribe if you find my videos useful. Subscribers and comments really help motivate me to keep doing this, so as usual, thanks for watching, drive safe, and I will see you guys next time.